So recently, I can't help but notice that sentiment regarding personal finances is trending towards the negative. And to be fair, we just went through a global pandemic and are facing a lot of economic uncertainty as we battle record inflation and fear of a looming recession. And even though there's a lot of external factors, there's a lot of internal decisions that are at play as well. According to a study done by Business Wire, 46% of millennials have a significant amount of debt, and 69% of millennials claim they would be better off if they could get over their financial anxieties. Well, even with a lot of societal pressures at play, I still believe we have the power to take control of our own lives and make something of ourselves. So watch this whole video to go over 5 steps on how you can take over your financial life. But before you do that, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're working towards getting our first 1,000 subs. All right, for step 1, you have to decide what you want, and it's time to get deep. I think most people's problem is they go through life very passively and they don't set goals and chase them aggressively. We were taught from a very young age to go to school, get good grades, get a degree, get a job, and stay in that industry for our entire career. And by the way, that option can be great and has made a lot of people successful. But one thing we're never taught is the why behind doing any of that. If you have any experience in the professional world, I'm sure you've realized by now that you grow accustomed to any promotions or salary increases very quickly. When we achieve some financial milestone, there's a period of time where it makes us super happy, but eventually we regress back to our same level of happiness that we were at before. And eventually the newness of every change will start to wear off if there's no why behind it. So this is where I want you to dig deep and figure out what you want out of your life. So try asking yourself some questions like, what industry fires me up and makes me excited? Do I want to work for somebody, or do I want to start my own business? And by the way, both answers are great. Do I want kids? If so, how many? Where do I want to live? What kind of hobbies or vacations do I want to be able to afford? And what other goals do I have that I want to accomplish? And what this will do is it'll allow you to start to put together a plan for what you want. And money is not the thing that's going to make you fulfilled or bring you happiness in life, but it is the thing that's going to buy you your freedom and allow you to do what you want to do. So start to control your future and your finances by actively planning for it. Okay, back to more of the money side. Step 2, face the facts and set a budget. According to another study done by Business Wire, 57% of Americans avoid talking about their finances, and 63% of Americans have never sought professional help regarding their finances. It's time to pull back the curtain and see how bad our finances really are. And it might sting to see it first, but you need to see where you're spending your money so that you can start to plan and budget where you're spending your money. And there's a bunch of online budgeting tools that will allow you to link your bank account or your credit card, and they'll analyze your spending for you instantly. So you can really have an overall picture of your financial habits in 10 minutes or less. And now that you've addressed that, it's time to set an actual budget moving forward. And in my view, there's 2 approaches to budgeting. The first one is active budgeting. Active budgeting is planning out your budget at the beginning of the month and tracking spending throughout the month to make sure that you don't exceed limits for each category. So for example, let's say you plan ahead of time and you decide to spend $1,000 a month on rent, $200 on groceries, $100 on gas, and so on. Then you would track your budget throughout the month to make sure you don't overspend on any of those categories. For new budgeters, I think this is the best option as it will require you to have an active role in your spending and your planning and your budgeting. And the second kind of budgeting is passive budgeting. Passive budgeting is a retroactive approach to budgeting that will require you to look back at your previous month using an online platform like a budgeting website or app, looking at those insights and then making changes for the next month. And as you look back each month, hopefully you'll see yourself getting closer and closer to your spending goals. So instead of planning at the beginning of the month and following a written budget throughout the month, you're looking back at the previous month and then adjusting from there. I would say this option is really only for people who already do well managing their spending and don't need to be as actively involved in their day-to-day spending. Either way, budgeting will allow you to know exactly where your money is going, which will allow you to plan accordingly. Step 3, if it's applicable to you, get out of debt. Being deep in debt is the opposite of having control of your finances. Debt involves having a legal obligation to make payments, which gives you absolutely no power over where your money is actually going. According to The Motley Fool, the average American has over $6,000 in credit card debt, and this number is only getting worse as we deal with record spending and record inflation. And I really do hate most types of debt. If you have a mortgage or a car loan that you can afford, then that's fine. But I'm really not okay with debt in almost any other scenario. And according to Bankrate, the average American has $96,000 in total debt. And sure, that does include mortgages, but that number still terrifies me, especially when considering that the median household income in the United States is $70,000 a year. And if you've been following along, we now have our spending under control, we have a budget, and I literally want you to create a category in your budget that's dedicated to debt repayment. So once you're putting money towards paying off debt, there's typically 2 strategies that you can follow. And the first is the debt snowball, which has you line your debts up from smallest total balance to largest total balance. And you're only making payments on every debt and then throwing everything extra at the smallest debt and attacking it. Once you pay that off, you move down the list, you move to the next one. Once you pay that off, you move down and so on. And the ideology behind this method is that it rewards you psychologically psychologically early on in the debt repayment process so that you have the drive to keep going and pay it all off. If you feel overwhelmed by your debt, I recommend this option because it'll give you a quick win and you'll want to keep going. Now, the second method is the debt avalanche, which has you line up your debts from highest interest rate to lowest interest rates. And again, while making minimum payments on everything, you start with the highest interest rate debt and attack it. Once you pay that off, you move down to the next, and so on. Now, this method will result in the least amount of interest paid mathematically. And if you think you have the willpower to get through it, this could be a great option for you. But remember, personal finance is 80% mental and only 20% factual or mathematical. So that's why I think the debt snowball can still be an excellent method. All right, now we'll go to step 4, start investing. And this is the super fun part for me. I could honestly talk about this for hours, but for this video, we'll keep it pretty simple. This is the step where you're gonna take your hard-earned money and you're gonna start putting it towards those goals that we talked about in step 1. And if this isn't a deep enough dive for you and you wanna know more, make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you check out some of my other videos where I dive more into investing, like accounts and investment vehicles and different options like that. And as a general guideline, I recommend that everyone contributes at least 15% of their gross income, which is before taxes, to their investments. But ideally, especially once you're out of debt, you should work your way up to investing 25% of your income. But let's start on the smaller end. Let's assume you make $70,000 per year and you invest 15% of your income at an average annual return of 10%. After 40 years, you'd have roughly $4.8 million. Doesn't that sound great? Would that allow you to accomplish the goals that you set in step 1? If so, I'm so happy for you. If not, you know you need to plan and invest more to accomplish those goals. There's so many investment calculators online you can use so that you can make sure you're hitting your goals when you want to hit them. But if you leave this video with anything, I hope it's that you realize that investing is your ticket to break free and do anything you want to do in life. And if it overwhelms you, that's okay. Start small. You don't have to start by investing thousands of dollars every year. The most important thing is that you build a habit, and I promise you that as you do that, you'll become addicted to it, and as you become more comfortable, you'll start to increase your contributions each month. All right, and step 5 to wrap us up is to reflect and adjust. Setting goals and thinking through your life is definitely not a one-time thing. That's where we started in step 1, but it's important that you check in with yourself and update yourself on where you want to be in life. And now that you've taken care of your basic financial needs, you now have a lot more freedom. And you'll probably find that the goals that you set when you're free are much different from the life goals that you set when you were feeling stuck. Your goals have probably gotten a little bit bigger, which is great. So here's the goal setting cadence I use for myself, but feel free to adjust this in whatever way works for you. So the first thing I do is annual goal planning, where once a year, I will plan a list of milestones that I'd like to accomplish within that year. And I make sure to have at least one goal in each of the following categories, which is career, financial, relationships, fitness, spiritual, and hobbies. Now again, these categories might be different for you. So for example, I'm married, so I like to have at least one goal that I can work on with my wife. So make sure you look at your life and make sure that the categories are covering everything you'd like to work on. And once I've set my goals, my wife and I will sit down to go over them so that she can hold me accountable and help me in whatever way I need. And I do the same thing for her. And this accountability partner could be anybody in your life. The next thing I do is quarterly check-ins, where again, we sit down, we hold each other accountable, we see where we can help each other, and we adjust our goals if needed throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, we do an end-of-year review where we go over our goals, see what we accomplished, see what we missed out on, and see what we need to adjust for the next year. And next year's goal planning session is usually in the same meeting as that. I think it's also good to have a 5-year plan, and I usually do this through a manifestation board where I put images of things I'd like to accomplish within the next 5 years up on a board so that I see it every day and I'm reminded of what I'm working toward. And this is as simple as putting pictures in a PowerPoint slide and then printing it out. Super basic, super simple. But remember, set goals how they best work for you, and don't set too many goals because goal setting will do nothing if you just burn yourself out. Hey guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I really hope you found this video and this discussion insightful. Be sure down below in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, and if you have any suggestions for future videos. And as always, if you like this type of content, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks.